It is 2006. ArenaNet, a still relatively young studio, had just put out Guild Wars Nightfall, the first campaign for Guild Wars 1. Guild Wars 1 was an online RPG, but it did not have a subscription fee. Instead, ArenaNet made money by selling standalone campaigns. They set a very ambitious goal for themselves: release one campaign every 6 months. In April of 2006, they released Guild Wars Factions, and then half a year later they released Guild Wars Nightfall. So of course, it didn't take the community very long to start speculating about the next Guild Wars campaign. At the time, I was 12 years old and I was loving Guild Wars 1. Every day I would come home from school and then immerse myself in the world of Tyria. I even ran a guild called the Dutch Warlords. So when Nightfall came out, I grabbed my calendar, skipped ahead 6 months, and I wrote down next Guild Wars release. But that is not what happens. ArenaNet changed their plans. Instead of giving us a new Guild Wars 1 campaign, they announced an entirely new game, Guild Wars 2. It would take 5 long years for Guild Wars 2 to actually come out. It has since become an integral part of my life. I have met lots of amazing friends on there, and streaming it has even become my job. So today, I thought it would be fun to take a look back at those 5 long years of waiting. From my own perspective, what were these years like as a Guild Wars 1 fan? It is time for some nostalgia vibes. Part 1. Is Guild Wars 2 even real? Hot news! Guild Wars campaigns cancelled! Announcing Guild Wars 2! It all started in 2007 with an article in PC Gamer. Guild Wars 2 was officially announced with a super different logo, and the article actually featured lots of details about what the game was going to be like. The article listed the 5 playable races, including 3 entirely new ones: the Norn, the Asura, and the Sylvari. It talked about big open maps with tons of people running around simultaneously. It also talked about expanded player movement. Players could now swim and they could even jump. You couldn't really jump in Guild Wars 1. Even dynamic events and world vs world were introduced. There were also some things which didn't quite make it into the final game. For example, the article talked about everyone being able to have a companion NPC who would join you on your travels. There was also going to be a sidekicking system, which would allow you to match the level of a friend to play together. This, of course, evolves into Guild Wars 2's level scaling mechanic. Of course, most of us in the Guild Wars 1 community were incredibly excited to hear about this new game, but at the same time there was also this sort of sad feeling that this would be the end for Guild Wars 1. Fortunately, ArenaNet simultaneously announced a new expansion for Guild Wars 1, Eye of the North. Eye of the North expanded our view of the Tyrian continent, and it was meant as sort of a bridge to Guild Wars 2. For example, it featured the Norn and the Asura for the first time. The final cutscene of the expansion even featured Primordus and the planting of the Pale Tree. Most of us in the community had a blast playing Eye of the North, and when we were done with it, we were all excited and ready to jump into this new Guild Wars game. Fortunately, we didn't have to wait long. After all, ArenaNet had announced a beta for Guild Wars 2 in the PC Gamer article, and it would take place in 2008. But that is not what happened. 2008 came and went without any Guild Wars 2 beta. I remember being kind of disappointed because my hype was through the roof, but at the same time, 13-year-old me also kind of understood. 2008 seemed really ambitious for a beta. There is actually a quote a couple of years later where ArenaNet mentioned wanting to not do a beta too early, to make sure that initial impressions were good. After the release of Eye of the North, 2 years would pass without much news about the sequel. We didn't really get much more than an occasional interview. I have very vague memories about this period. I would swear that I read somewhere that players would be able to wear any armor class they wanted to. So like, a spellcaster could totally wear heavy armor. Unfortunately, I cannot seem to find a source for this strange memory. During these 2 years, the atmosphere in the community honestly seemed pretty negative. And with the community, I specifically mean the Guild Wars Guru forums. After all, there was only silence from ArenaNet. Lots of people at the time were even saying that Guild Wars 2 was vaporware, that it was too ambitious and that it would never come out. Of course, as we all know, Guild Wars 2 was real. ArenaNet was just busy developing it and they weren't showing it off yet. A couple years later, we actually got some screenshots from this time period. These were posted on Twitter by Matthew Medina, a developer at ArenaNet. I find these screenshots super fascinating. Clearly, these were taken in Queensdale, and the game looks a lot like the Guild Wars 2 that we know, but lots of UI elements like the chat box and some skill icons are taken straight from Guild Wars 1. Of course, these were just placeholders for early testing. While ArenaNet was busy developing and testing their game, all we could do was speculate and wait. But it wouldn't take that long until we got our first glimpse of Guild Wars 2. Part 2. The Reveal. In the summer of 2009, GuildWars2.com suddenly sprang to life. The only thing on the website was a logo that we are now all familiar with. A dragon in the shape of a 2. Everyone got really excited, and it was as if the entire community all came back at once. It all seemed to be leading to Gamescom, a large gaming convention in Germany, where ArenaNet was going to be present. One of the community managers at the time even teased us with a YouTube video, where he was listening to the start of what seemed like a German trailer. And then finally, at Gamescom, ArenaNet showed us the first ever trailer for Guild Wars 2.
It is time for legends to become real.
The trailer completely blew me away. Everything I had been speculating and dreaming about, it was suddenly there on my screen. The epic music, the gorgeous concept art, and the actual in-engine footage. Wow, we saw Divinity's Reach, a super early version of Lion's Arch. We saw the Norn, the Asura, the Char, the Sylvari. Yeah, the Sylvari looks a lot different back then. But it was real. This game, which had only been described in articles, was suddenly there on our screens. I must have watched this trailer like 100 times. There was now an official website. The Guild Wars 2 Guru forums went live, which quickly became the center of discussion and speculation. From this point on, I would browse over there every single day to see if there was any Guild Wars 2 news. And this is where the long wait really started. Now that we had seen the game, we really wanted to know more. We really wanted to play the game. But it would still be quite some years until the game would actually come out. A couple of months after Gamescom, we were all surprised by a second trailer, this time showing us the different races of Tyria and introducing us to Destiny's Edge. And then, a couple of months after that, ArenaNet released an image showing the silhouettes of the 8 professions in the game. These professions would be revealed one by one, and they started off with the Elementalist. It was kind of a genius move. Everyone was staring at this picture and trying to guess which professions would be next. The community was actually pretty good at guessing these professions. There was a lot of speculation talking about the blue mace lady. There had been some concept art of a woman wearing blue heavy armor, and people rightfully speculated that this might be some Holy Knight style class. Some people also thought that this class would be related to a blue magical thing which we spotted on Logan's shields. Now, of course, we all know that this profession is the Guardian. A year after the first trailer, ArenaNet announced that they would once again be attending Gamescom in Germany, but this time they also mentioned that there would be a playable demo of Guild Wars 2. The second I heard the news, I decided that I had to go. I was obsessed with knowing everything about Guild Wars 2, and while Gamescom was in Germany, it was only 3 hours away by train. Right before Gamescom, ArenaNet released the famous Manifesto trailer, which talked about the core design philosophy of the game. This trailer really got the hype train going, and I, of course, couldn't wait to go play the demo myself. So, together with a friend who had also played some Guild Wars 1, I traveled to Cologne and I made my way to ArenaNet's booth. There were all these demo stations, which gave people 45 minutes to play the game. While getting to play 45 minutes sounded really amazing, it also meant that we had to wait a long time before it was our turn. I remember being really scared of either not getting to play or missing our train back home. But eventually, it was our turn. We made a human elementalist, ran aimlessly through Queensdale and met Lord Farron. Best 45 minutes ever. I actually used my terrible phone at the time to capture a little bit of footage from our demo. You can see it on the screen right now. Amazing quality. Fortunately, a lot of players with better cameras posted their gameplay to YouTube. Like, for example, the German website War Tower, whose footage you are looking at right now. The community spent many hours watching these playthroughs over and over. This, after all, was all the gameplay that we had. Cam footage of a screen. At the time, the game was still a lot different from what it is like now. For example, there was a mana system. Players also had to assign stats when they would level up, and the UI, while not looking like Guild Wars 1 anymore, still looked a lot different. Over the next year, a lot more professions were revealed, the Silvari were redesigned, and more gameplay details emerged. ArenaNet once again attended Gamescom. We got a new trailer which showcased the Quaddle and featured an early piano rendition of Fear Not This Night. I once again decided to go, but this time, having obsessively stared at footage of the last Gamescom, I was armed with a better camera. I got some footage of the Quaddle and also some footage of PvP. Yes, I may not play PvP now, but I played it before it was cool. I even got a nice YouTube comment saying, "Fail camera noob." Now, there is only 1 year of waiting left. At the start of 2012, ArenaNet announced that the game was going to release that year, and that meant that there were going to be some betas. Part 3. The betas. The first beta weekend for Guild Wars 2 took place in December of 2011. We knew what was going on, but it wasn't open to the public. Not much is known about this beta weekend, but pretty much everyone was upset that they couldn't participate. There were a couple more of these closed betas, but these were a lot more exciting. Some press was invited and some YouTubers as well. For the first time, we actually saw some high quality gameplay footage. Eventually, in April, it was finally time for the first open beta weekend. Access was guaranteed to anyone who had pre-ordered the game, and I was so excited. I remember recording a video at the login screen, where I was just talking about how excited I was to finally jump in. And then I went live. And honestly, I was a little bit disappointed. Alright, hear me out for a second here. In my head, I had hyped up Guild Wars 2 to an absolutely incredible level. It was as if the game was going to fix world hunger, change my life entirely, and make sure that I would never be bored again. When I first logged in, it was as if reality hit me in the face. Guild Wars 2 was just a game, and there were even some server issues. I know that sounds a bit silly, and to be quite honest, it was. I went to bed, and then the next day I went in with a fresh mind. And I just got hooked. Suddenly the game clicked for me. Maybe it wasn't gonna change my entire life, but it surely was a game that I really enjoyed playing. You know what's kind of odd though? All these years later, the game has managed to change my life. I have spent thousands of hours in Tyria, I've met some amazing people, and the game even kickstarted my content creation career. I guess in the end, Guild Wars 2 did actually manage to live up to my crazy high expectations. But let's get back to the beta. The UI still looks quite a bit different. The map was this rotating compass, and the dodge bar was where the mana bar had previously been. But most of the core game was the same. I leveled up my character in Queensdale and Keswick's Hills, I explored Lion's Arch and the other starter zones, and I also tried some Worlds vs. Worlds. I was playing together with people I had met on a Dutch Guild Wars 2 forum, and we had a total blast. When the event ended, we all honestly felt kind of restless. We wanted to play more. 2 more beta weekends followed. New maps and features were added, we got the current dodge bar and minimap, and in the final beta, the Silvari and the Asura finally became playable. I even came back 1 day early from a vacation because I really wanted to try out the Silvari. I have some incredible memories to these betas. You know, like the first time doing a dungeon, or stumbling upon a jumping puzzle, or setting foot in Lion's Arch. It was a really special time. On August 28, 2012, Guild Wars 2 finally came out, and the long wait came to an end. I honestly cannot believe that it's been almost 9 years since then, and in those 9 years we've seen countless updates, living world episodes, and even 2 expansions. I would say that those 5 years were worth the wait. Alright everyone, and that's it for this little trip down memory lane. I really hope you enjoyed it, because I really enjoyed making this video. If a lot of people like it, I might even want to reminisce about some other topics in the future. Thank you so much for watching. If you want, stop by my Twitch stream sometimes and say hi. You can find me at twitch.tv/Laranity. See ya!